Eng the smart speaker heard a name. The night our lights chose romance without me. At 9:14 p.m., the apartment decided to be honest without consulting either of us. Scene activated. Romance, my phone announced, cheerful as a maitre d' who's seen too much. A thumbnail below it showed our living room washed in that soft amber we reserve for anniversaries and forgiveness. Under the scene name in smaller type that should have stayed humble, the app listed, voice user, Adrian, and then, as if punctuation had grown nerves, heard name, Mateo. He'd left at 8 in the jacket that flatters him even when mirrors start preaching. Wrap toast, he said, 2 words that make celebration sound like paperwork. Then notes with Mateo. Don't wait. Mateo does sound. He carries microphones like small animals with tempers and listens the way air does when it's taking minutes. The cinnamon thing in the oven was working gratuitously hard to keep me domesticated. The light climbed our wall in obedient squares and refused to narrate me. The speaker's app isn't supposed to transcribe names. It's designed for weather, timers, the small bureaucracy of comfort. But sometimes it notes the first proper noun after a wake word to improve response. Tonight it did more than improve. It turned into a witness. I put on the jacket that knows how to mind its own business and took the elevator down, not because I needed to leave, but because I needed to arrive differently. Our lobby smells like lemons with a graduate degree. The doorman gave me a nod that meant he understood his job was to notice nothing at all. I stepped back into the night and let air fix the part of my face that had become punctuation. Our windows are 3 floors up. You can see the left corner of our living room from the sidewalk if the blinds are shy. Tonight they were. Through slats, amber dragged itself across the couch like a hand that knows roots. The romance scene lowers everything by 20% and warms it by 10. It's our compromise between ambition and mercy. The light made our plant look healthier than it is and our rug repent less than it should. The app pushed another card. Music started. Velvet Mix. I don't have a playlist named that. Adrian does. The cover image is a Polaroid of a lamp he liked in a hotel lobby where the bartender remembered his pour. I didn't buzz. I still own a key. The door gave me our codes, polite click. Inside, the speaker rang a single chime, the sound of a device that has done what it was told and wants credit but not responsibility. The scent in the room wasn't sex. It was cinnamon pretending neutrality and a thin note of cologne Adrian uses when he's trying to be more expensive than a situation. Jonah, he said from the kitchen, my name in the tone receipts prefer. He stepped around the island, sleeves pushed up, hair gentled by fingers that might or might not have been his. Behind him, perched on the counter like an afterthought that rehearsed, a bottle of mineral water had 2 glasses beside it, both sweating politely. From the bedroom doorway, a shadow moved and chose to stop being a noun. Mateo is taller than any good idea. He has the calm of men who trust their hearing more than their speech. He didn't look guilty because he hadn't been briefed on that verb. He looked present. That can be worse. I wasn't finished in the studio, Adrian said, which was almost true and then more honest. I wanted to be wanted without passing inspection. Your speaker heard his name, I said, because humor is the leash I use to keep panic from bolting. I held up the screen like a docent. It also switched on our romance and cued your velvet. Mateo's eyes moved speaker light me the door. He didn't touch anything, which I appreciated. I can give you the room, he said. Logistics, not theater. His voice carried the courtesy of a man who knows how microphones steal. He picked up his coat from the back of a chair, looked once at the smart camera in the bookshelf that pretends to be a sculpture, and drifted toward the hall. His leaving wasn't surrender, it was competence. Not here, Adrian said, eyes flicking to the shelf's black glass. He tipped his head toward the fire escape, the little steel square where the city exhales against our brick. There's air. We stepped out into the city's kind of honesty, traffic coaxing itself into rhythm, a bus sighing like a man who needs a better job. The amber from our living room tried to make the bricks sentimental. The night refused. He leaned on the rail and put his forehead against cool metal as if it had promised to be fair. "I lied when I left," he said. He doesn't waste adjectives when he intends to be correct. Rap happened. People did their best grammar on goodbye. Mateo asked a question that made me feel like quiet had a voice, and I mistook that for permission. "Did you touch him?" I asked. There are cliff questions and there are scenic routes. I choose the cliff because the fastest way down is sometimes the only way through. "Yes," he said, "once." He breathed and the metal forgave him. I brought my mouth. I thought a different room could keep it from meaning anything. It didn't. He stopped it. He told me I was saying the sentence in the wrong room. Wind tried my collar like a theft. I stepped into him because cold is a moral hazard I can fix. I lifted 2 fingers to the soft place inside his wrist where men keep their apologies and felt his pulse write my name there without permission. His eyes closed like doors built to expect hands. Under my palm at the small of his back, where his body keeps its best arguments, heat had already bought a one-way ticket. My hand remembered the route. "You like wanting that proves something kindness can't," I said. "I didn't make it cruel. Cruelty is lazy precision. You treat intimacy like a sport and honesty like off-season training." "You like to coach," he said, his mouth trying on a better room, "which is unfair and the reason we still have furniture." "What do you want?" I asked. "Right now, not the apology you drafted for daylight." He stepped into the inch that becomes a lie if you respect it too long. Heat moved through cotton like a fact I didn't need to argue. He spoke close enough that punctuation found my lower lip. "I want to go inside," he said softly. "I want to turn the lights back to kitchen. I want you where the chair we hate remembers how we sit." So we went in. I told the speaker to turn off romance, and it obeyed like a dog that keeps your secrets only because it doesn't understand language. The room returned to mortal light. On the counter, the water pretended it had become less complicit. The cinnamon kept its post like a saint with pastry. "We didn't use the bed," Adrian said, as if a jury were listening. "We didn't even cross the rug." He stood where he is good at standing, and I forgot which room taught me nouns. I don't forgive men at counters. I let counters hold objects while I decide how to place my hands. I set the phone face down and stepped into him and let my mouth be less rhetorical. Not hunger first. Relief. Relief is an appetite you can escort past the idea of witnesses. He leaned like a debt that has finally started to like its math. He made the low sound he never does on cue, the sound that convinces me our kitchen is holy. I stopped before the speaker could pretend to be a witness. He rested his forehead against mine because punctuation outperforms grammar when light is wrong. When we pulled apart, he stayed close, so close the past tense had to wait for permission. "Stay," I said, to the part of him that was looking for exits. "I want to," he said, and for once it landed exactly where it should. We ate the cinnamon with our fingers because forks would have lied. He leaned into the drawer that sticks, the posture that means he's willing to be moved and wants me to be precise about where. I slid my palm beneath his shirt and found heat like an address that still prints both our names on the mail. He tipped toward me with the weight gratitude gives a body when it's done pretending to be clever. We were careful in bed, not the kind of careful that kills heat, the kind that knows where to fold it so the room doesn't have to testify later. He knows where to set his hand on my ribs so the rest of me turns without issuing a press release. I know where his shoulder hides when it runs out of brave, and how to coax it into telling the truth with weight and breath, and a mouth that has stopped trying to rescue him and still wants him. I won't draw you a map. I'll tell you the room remembered to breathe and morning forgave us because it had other work. We slept like people who aren't finished. Light shouldered the blinds with the confidence of a suggestion. He made coffee the way he does when he wants me to listen. The speaker's LED sat at the edge of the counter like an eye deciding it had seen enough. I told it to forget last night's commands. It chirped an affirmation that sounded a lot like a shrug. He started with small truths because small truths keep larger ones upright. I liked the way he listened, he said. I liked feeling like the air cared. I wanted to borrow a body that didn't know our history so I could try a sentence without consequences. He looked at the speaker, then at me, then at the coffee as if caffeine were a confession aid. He didn't want to be that body. He told me to go home. Do you want to? I asked, making sure the tense lined up with the jaw. Yes, he said. To want this. To be boring with you, not because I've lost heat, but because heat knows where to sleep. Then we'll practice being dull, I said. We'll be excellent at it. We made boring plans because boring is how you keep lives from needing alibis. We renamed the romance, scene table lamp, and changed its color from amber to warm white so it stops believing its own press. We set the speaker to require confirmation before activating scenes, and turned off transcribed names to improve response because nobody needs technology improving that hard. We wrote a rule on the back of a receipt and taped it inside a cupboard. If one of us wants 30 minutes from someone else, we call it craving, not crisis. We walk it near the river and spend it on pastry that bullies your mouth into thinking about sugar. It isn't romantic. It's maintenance. It's oil for the hinge that keeps the door from learning to shout. 2 afternoons later, I saw Mateo in the lobby that smells like ambition and lemon, the city's favorite lie. He gave me the nod men use when they've chosen to be furniture on purpose. He didn't apologize and I didn't deputize. We stood by the package shelf where everyone's next plan arrives in brown. I'm not waiting to be thanked, he said. His voice carries the exactness of a man who calibrates silence. He kissed me. I told him he was saying the sentence in the wrong room. I like the version of him that has to earn mornings. He looked at the ceiling as if the building could carry the leftover voltage. You don't need my testimony, but if it helps, nothing worth deleting happened. It helps, I said, because it did. Not because it cleaned the night, but because it confirmed the shape of what needed scrubbing. He nodded once and left like a chord resolving, not a door slamming. We never became friends. We became men with a shared interest in another man's better decision. There are worse coalitions. A week later at 9:14 again, as if the hour had applied for tenure, the speaker tried to audition for our life. Would you like to resume the last scene? It asked in a tone that imagined candles. Adrian met my eyes across the room and grinned, the small, real one that moves furniture. Hey, he told the device, play dishwasher. Which is our joke for white noise that keeps us from narrating ourselves. The speaker obeyed with a rush of water, dutiful as a river with a union. On certain nights when the city forgets to be clever, his mouth finds mine with the urgency thunderstorms claim, and the patience laundry requires. We stay just on the lawful side of the line because good heat doesn't need choreography to be true. When it's done with us, when we are done with it, he rests his palm where my back keeps its heat like a bookmark that always knows the right page. Sometimes after midnight the app still sends a smug summary. Lights were on 3H22M scenes used. Table lamp. Music. None. I don't trust it. I trust the square of light at 4 when it climbs our wall like an idea that finally put on shoes. I trust the bowl that catches our phones like obedient coins. I trust that if a machine ever tries again to hear a name that isn't mine and turn our room amber on our behalf, we'll do what we did the night it tried. Find air, choose kissing over theater, turn the lights to something stupid like kitchen, and keep teaching this door, gentle, stubborn, local, to open from the inside. Two little footnotes, because lives adore encores. First, I changed his contact from Adrian to Adrian, home. Hyphens don't do miracles. They perform a modest service. When my hand forgets its job at 3:17, it reads the dash and remembers to put the phone down. Second, I kept the screenshot, the one that says heard name, Mateo. Not to punish us, to remember the exact hinge the night swung on. It's a tidy rectangle proving that a room can learn your rituals and still betray your intentions, and that two men can sometimes be louder than a machine.